Welcome to Eternal Dread, where fear never sleeps. Tell us where you're watching from, and what time it is, because terror has no limits. If you're brave enough, share and comment, but beware, something might be watching you too. Now, turn off the lights, and let the dread begin. The man walked in at 2 a.m., dragging something black behind him. The way it moved didn't sit right. Neither did he. The receptionist felt it immediately. The way he walked, stiff and uneven, like a scarecrow with one leg shorter than the other. He hid greasy blonde hair beneath a 10-gallon hat, spurs clicking as he moved. I watched the security footage later. His lips were white and thin, his teeth crooked. His mouth twisted into a half-smile, like he was seconds from laughter. He was dragging a massive black Rottweiler. The dog resisted, back paws sliding across the floor. The camera didn't pick up sound, but later, the two gals at reception told me what he said. He's acting possessed. They handed him intake forms. He hobbled back to a bench, and I watched through the lens as another client, a woman holding a cat carrier, subtly slid a few seats away. I looked up his paperwork. The address led to a warehouse in Tennessee, 3 states away. The name seemed fake too. Keaton Scruggs. No records. No online presence. But the dog's name? Mutt. That was the only detail I believed. You might wonder why I checked. It's not standard protocol. I don't usually do this. But the events of the last few nights led me to my search. When he handed the paperwork back, he sat down again, dragging the dog with him like a sack of flour. He leaned against the wall, arms folded, eyes fixed ahead. He barely moved, like a corpse propped upright. His dog didn't move much either. Just sat there, waiting. We see a lot of characters here. Some genuinely kind folks, too. But this man, something about him was wrong. I stepped into the lobby to bring him into an exam room. It took him a second to register me, like he was in a trance. And then the smell hit me, stale cigarettes, gas fumes, and beneath that, something worse. A rotten, greasy stench that clung to the air. The dog sat still, vacant, a husk. It was like someone had lobotomized it. As it stood there, drool began dripping from its mouth, pooling on the floor. I introduced myself and got to work. So, what's going on with Mutt today? Keaton didn't answer right away. His eyes drifted to the ceiling, like he was watching something flutter above us. Oh, he just ain't acting right. He ain't been eating much. This is usually where clients start rambling. Some could go on for hours if you let them. But he was done, still staring at the ceiling through those dirty locks of hair. When I knelt to take the dog's heart rate, the second my fingers touched its skin, a wrongness crawled into me. That tingle before lightning strikes. That creeping dread when something awful is about to happen. The vitals were normal, heart rate, breathing. But its skin was cold. 97 degrees, lower than we like. It was mildly dehydrated, maybe 4%. But when I peeled back its loose lips to check its gums, I felt like I was too close to something I shouldn't be. The gums were pale. The pupils locked onto me, dilated. It wasn't growling. No hackles raised. Just watching, like it was restraining itself. That feeling of unease was sickening. "Don't turn your back on M," the man said. I paused mid-turn. "Excuse me? If you're gonna walk from him, do it fasten. Otherwise, something bad might happen." I exhaled sharply, irritated. He'd watched me get close to the dog, lean in, listen to it. Yet now he decided to warn me it was aggressive. I liked this situation less and less. The man. The dog. The way this whole thing sat in my gut like spoiled food. I backed away, facing the dog. It watched me, intently, like I was prey, like I was meat. A few moments later, our on-site emergency veterinarian, Dr. Harkham, came in. Old school, no nonsense. He and Keaton exchanged few words. The vet recommended blood work and an overnight stay within 4 fluid drip. The dog needed warming up too. Keaton never lost that dumb smile, that half-cocked grin, like something was hilarious. But he nodded, accepted the treatment plan. We went to take the dog into the back treatment area. I slipped a muzzle on, of course, and that's when I noticed it wouldn't walk. The owner had dragged it behind him earlier, but now, it wasn't lethargic. It was choosing not to move. I had a larger male staff member, Ryan, carry the dog for me. As he picked it up, he glanced at me. We didn't exchange words, but I knew he felt it too. Not just the dog, the air. When we went to draw blood from its jugular, it didn't even react. Ryan held the dog steady, hands firm on either side of its head, jaws up. The needle slipped in. The syringe filled. The blood was cold. I ran it through the machines. Just mild dehydration. Some elevated lipase hinting at pancreatitis. No infection. Nothing to explain why it was so cold. We placed it into a heated kennel, tucked it in with blankets, hooked up the 4 catheter. I was relieved when Keaton left. That was 3 days ago. That night was quiet, rare for an emergency hospital. We had another dog kenneled 2 spaces down from the Rottweiler, a cattle dog that had undergone emergency laparotomy. It had been doing fine, normal vitals, good appetite, responsive. 2 hours later, I checked on it, and the cattle dog was dead. It had torn open its own incision. Somehow, it had gotten its cone off, and it had attacked itself. Not licking, not nibbling, mutilating. Even when coils of intestine unfurled from its abdomen, it had kept biting at those guts, like they were coiled snakes, and he was killing them. The dog was slouched over, head limp against the floor. The blood ran in bright ribbons, swirling toward the kennel drain behind him, which slurped up the blood greedily. The kennel was a bloodbath. It streaked the walls, spattered the ceiling. His intestines had leaked bile and partially digested sludge. The cattle dog's eyes were vacant orbs, glistening in the light. I stood still for a moment, taking in the horror, the violence, and 2 kennels down. Mutt, sitting, watching, fluid drip running, heater humming, lips curled back, not panting, not whining, just smiling. His eyes reflected the fluorescent light, and for one sickening second, they looked almost human. Calling that cattle dog's owner was one of the hardest things we've ever done. Dr. Harkem made the call, but I heard every word, every choked sob through the thin walls of our office. The owner didn't just cry. They wailed. I'd seen plenty of death in this job, but this was different. This wasn't bad luck. Something else had its hands in this. The mood in the hospital shifted. In all my years, I'd never seen a dog unzip itself like a gym bag and spill out its intestines. Each time we walked past Mutt's kennel, his head turned slowly to follow. Each bloody towel. Each mop bucket. Every time we passed that black body bag, the cattle dog-sized bag, zip-tied and labeled, Mutt watched. That night was quiet, but it didn't feel like a break. It felt like the storm waiting to hit. At some point, hours after the cattle dog's death, I heard the steady beeping of a monitor from the kennel ward, the 4 pump hooked up to Mutt. I didn't want to go, but I did. I brought Ryan. We slipped the muzzle over Mutt's head easily. Too easily. He didn't resist, didn't flinch, just let it happen. His eyes followed the movement of our hands as we buckled it snugly behind his head. Only his eyes moved. 2 dark orbs. Watching. Digesting. The dog had kinked the 4 line beneath its paw. We moved it aside, smoothed it out. That should have been it. A simple fix. But as we turned to leave, the light above his kennel flickered. At first, just a slight flicker. Barely noticeable. Then it sputtered, dimmed, and cut out completely. The kennel dropped into shadow. Ryan and I froze. The only light now was a faint glow from the hallway behind us. We exchanged a glance. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us wanted to acknowledge what we were feeling. The air in the room changed. Heavy buzzing like the static before a storm. Then the 2 tube lights above Mutt's kennel flared so bright it hurt to look at them. A pop, then a sizzle. And they died. Everything was silent. Ryan's back was to Mutt. Mutt lunged. A surge of violence, muzzle strapped tight, body lunging forward. He slammed his head against Ryan's side, ramming into him again and again. Ryan screamed. The dog was silent, except for the mechanical snapping of his jaws, working beneath the muzzle. Spittle flying. Ryan twisted, trying to stand. But the sudden attack had taken him off guard. I reacted without thinking. Threw open the kennel door. Mutt rammed into Ryan again, harder this time. The sheer force knocked him off balance. Ryan writhed around to grab at Mutt. The moment he faced Mutt, the dog stilled. It stood there silent, watching, bathed in the new darkness. Something was wrong with this dog. Not neurologically. Something deeper. It felt intelligent. It felt calculating. It felt evil. Ryan was shaken, and so was I. But we didn't talk about it. We just got out of there. The rest of the night passed without incident. I focused on my other cases. A Chihuahua with pneumonia, a Persian cat having low-grade seizures, a tabby with proprioception deficits. I went through the motions, but my mind was elsewhere. Ryan seemed dazed, like something fresh had broken inside of him. It wasn't just shock, or trauma, or fear. It was more profound than that. I left for the night still shaken. Ryan didn't even wave goodbye. I chain-smoked cigarettes in my car before driving home. Flicked the butts out the window. My hands were shaking the entire ride. And when I finally collapsed into bed, I pulled my pistol out of my purse and slipped it under my pillow. And as the sun crept over the horizon, my dreams were wrong. I dreamed of a black face snarling in the dark, leaning in, sniffing, eyes like hollow pits, endless swirling voids, teeth sinking into my flesh, not a bite, not an attack, but a slow, deliberate pressure, easing into my skin. When I woke, my sheets were damp with sweat. When I came in for my shift that night, I felt a deep sense of disappointment the second I walked past Mutt's kennel. He was still there, heater purring, eyes following. The lights above his kennel were still blown out. The ones beside them had started to flicker. Ryan called out sick, said he'd been throwing up since the night before. I had a feeling there was more to the story, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I shot him a text wishing him well. He read it, didn't reply. And that sinister, eerie man who called himself Keaton? His phone went straight to dial tone when we tried calling for a case update. He wasn't coming back. He'd paid half his bill up front in crisp, old $100 bills. We weren't getting the other half. The night was busier. I told my manager we shouldn't put any other dogs in that ward, but we didn't have a choice. Our small animal ward was on the other side of the building, but for the larger dogs, they had to go there. We admitted a Great Dane with liver disease. There was nowhere else to put him, so I placed him in the kennel farthest from Mutt, 2 down from the cattle dog that had ripped itself apart. When I went back to check on them 10 minutes later, I stopped cold. Mutt's kennel was wide open. The latch was undone. The door swung open. He wasn't on fluids anymore. No pump to beep. No leash. No sign of how it had happened. Just him, sitting at the threshold, staring, slack-jawed. I shut the kennel, latched it securely, left the room, came back with 2 plates of food. Immediately I felt nauseous. The kennel was open again. I hadn't heard a sound, hadn't seen the door move. The only way to unlatch these kennels is with hands, with opposable thumbs. I slammed it shut again, this time locking it with a makeshift carabiner clip. I slid 1 plate of food under each kennel, low fat for the Dane, critical care for Mutt. I was walking away when I heard it, a sound that froze me. Not a growl, not a whine. It sounded like someone trying to speak through a mouth full of water, like a deep, male voice gargling on words before spitting them out. A dog trying to talk. I turned. Mutt sat there, watching, silent now. Something tingled in the air. But the Dane had begun to cry. His plate of food lay spilled across the kennel floor. His hackles were raised, his body pressed against the back wall, eyes flicking toward the ceiling. He was feeling something deep and inexplicable. I felt it too. When I reached for the kennel bars, the crying stopped. The Dane's body trembled, then his whimpering changed, deepened. A low, eerie sound, like a tornado siren. Then it stopped altogether. The dog went still. Too still. Then all at once, he attacked his own leg. Not chewing, not licking, ripping, breaking. Deep, pulverizing bites. Bone cracked. Blood spattered the kennel floor. It wasn't a dog in pain. It wasn't a dog in distress. It was something else. Something destroying itself with purpose. I couldn't go in there. If I did, he'd likely redirect onto me, send me to the hospital. I turned and ran, shouting for help as I sprinted through the clinic. Dr. Harkham and 2 other techs, Angie and Denise, came rushing out of an exam room at the sound of my frantic screaming. I grabbed a rabies catch pole. The Dane was still going. The flesh of its leg hung in shreds, barely attached. Blood spurted like shots from a water gun, pulsing in rhythm with its heartbeats from a severed artery. I slipped open the kennel and looped the catch pole around its neck, tightening it hard, wrenching its head just enough to stop it from lunging. It snapped at the air, frantic, but no emotion behind it. Then it latched onto the metal pole. Not out of panic, not out of rage, out of a bizarre corruption of instinct. The sound was unbearable, teeth breaking against metal, splintering, shattering. The flesh of its leg was nearly gone. Just a ragged mess of meat and exposed bone that flapped as it chewed at the metal. I saw part of a fractured canine fall out of its mouth. The catch pole was bloody, dented but holding firm. The dog was weakening by the time Dr. Harkham arrived, slumping over in the pile of its own blood. By the time we managed to inject a sedative, it was too late. The blood loss was too severe. The Dane fully collapsed to the floor, body twitching, biting. All at once, its eyes glazed over, and it went still. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mutt, lips pulled back in a snarl, smiling. When is that fucking dog going to leave? I snapped, pointing at him. Dr. Harkim shot me a sharp look. His white coat was streaked with blood. His eyes were dark, hollowed with exhaustion. Something is wrong with it, I insisted. With him. All I see is a dog who just mutilated itself in our care, he said. The second one in 2 days. Don't worry about that fucking dog. We have bigger issues here. I have another owner to call. Another person I have to tell their pet killed itself. Under my watch. He flicked blood from his fingers, dragged a sleeve across his face. He was years past burnout. A shell of his former self. He couldn't see what I saw. He couldn't see the way Mutt watched. The way his eyes lingered over the carnage pooling beneath my feet. Like he was enjoying it. Dr. Harkim sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. We tried calling that creepy bastard again. Numbers out of service. He ditched the dog on us. That meant we had to rehome it. It could take weeks. I couldn't take weeks with him. None of us could. And as I looked into Angie's eyes, I knew she felt the same. The hospital settled into an uneasy silence. The night shift pressed on, but something had shifted. We were all exhausted, hollowed out by what we'd seen. The cattle dog. The Great Dane. The blood. Mutt still sat in his kennel, untouched food at his feet, heater humming. Watching. 2 more lights flickered out while I cleaned. I mopped blood from the floors, the thick iron scent clinging to my skin. The towels we used to soak up the mess were soaked through a deep, ugly red. And through it all, Mutt never looked away. I told myself I'd figure something out, that I just needed time. But time wasn't on my side. I was dumping a load of bloody towels into the laundry bin when I heard it. Eli Histenson. I dropped everything. A voice, thick and wet, slurred in a way no dog's throat was built to produce. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a growl. It was trying to speak. And what came out wasn't just a sound. It was a name. My name. Allison. I turned, stomach lurching. Mutt was sitting in his kennel. Still. Muzzle slack. Drool pooling on the blanket beneath him. His pupils swallowed the light. I couldn't move. My brain was trying to rationalize it, trying to shove what I had just heard into a box of normalcy. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe it was the pipes or a monitor or... But then the smell hit me. Rot. Not just the smell of the hospital. Not just the faint antiseptic and animal musk that always clung to the air. This was meat left in the sink for weeks. This was something dead wedged into the cracks of the world. And I realized then, the smell I'd caught when Keaton first walked into the lobby, that greasy, putrid stench. It hadn't been him. It had been the dog. I ran. I grabbed the blankets off the floor, shoved them into the laundry bin, and bolted. My hands shook as I crammed the lid shut. My pulse was a hammer in my ears. Don't turn your back on it. The memory of Keaton's words crawled down my spine like a cold hand. He's acting possessed. I knew what Mutt had tried to do to Ryan. I knew what he wanted to do to me. And now I knew. I wasn't waiting for him to act. I was going to kill him. I kept my head down the rest of the shift, biding my time. My mind wasn't on the cases I took. I worked on autopilot. I went through the motions, but my body was moving without me. And when I got a moment alone, I pulled up 20 milliliters of pentobarbital sodium and phenytoin sodium solution. Euthisol, the sparkling pink liquid we used to put animals down. I took enough to kill a dog twice Mutt's size. There'd be a discrepancy in the controlled substance log, but I could smooth it out over the next few weeks. A couple of slightly higher doses on euthanasia cases, logged with enough time between them, and no one would notice. I locked the cabinet, slid the syringe into my pocket. I was committing a crime, breaking DEA laws. I could lose my license, my career, even end up in jail. But deep in my bones, I knew one thing. That thing in the kennel. It needed to die. The next morning, when I arrived for my shift, the hospital was heavy with grief. Everyone was crying. Ryan was dead. He'd taken his own life in his trailer sometime after leaving work. No details. No explanation. Just gone. The police had come by to inform us. They didn't stay long. Didn't need to. I knew then. It cemented in my mind what had to be done. I don't know how, but I knew. I didn't wait. I worked through the grief, through the horror, pushing it all into a place I'd deal with later. I waited for the right moment. A lull between shift changes, when staffing was light. I approached Mutt's kennel. His head was cocked, eyes tracking me. He looked almost expectant. I opened the kennel door and slid the muzzle over his face quickly. My hands moved with a sharpness I hadn't felt before. I yanked the straps too tight. My pulse was steady. I leaned out of the room, peered around the corner. No one coming. I held Mutt's paw, feeling for the vein, my other hand already slipping the needle beneath the skin. The syringe in my palm felt hot. I pushed the plunger. It was difficult, so much volume to inject. But I pushed it all, every last drop. Normally, when an animal is euthanized, it happens fast. They slump. Their eyes stay open. Their bodies give up. Mutt didn't move. I could have killed a human with this much euthasol. But he just sat there. I stared at him, heart pounding, my breath coming sharp. They usually pass away before the syringe is empty. Their bodies relax, their eyes go distant, the tension of life slipping from them like a sigh. Mutt's body stayed rigid, his breath steady. The drug should have shut him down immediately, but his muscles held, his head remained lifted, eyes locked onto mine. A chill crawled up my spine. This dog should be dead. Then the hallway lights flickered. One by one, the bulbs sizzled out, plunging the kennel ward into darkness. The air thickened, heavy with the weight of something unseen. The heater stopped. The only glow came from the exit sign at the far end of the hall, casting a weak green wash over the kennels. The shadows twisted around me. I couldn't move. The door to the kennel slammed shut behind me. My breath hitched. The silence was absolute. The only sound was the slow, wet rasp of Mutt's breathing. I could feel him in the dark, the weight of his presence sinking like teeth into my skin. Then, Eli Histensen. The voice came from the kennel. Thick, gurgling wrong. A sound like a dog learning to speak, like a throat filled with crunching gravel, trying to shape words. The vowels stretched, dripping with something slick and inhuman. My stomach lurched. I reached for the latch, fingers fumbling, but my hands were slick with sweat. My breathing was too loud. The darkness pressed in. The rot smell thickened, crawling up my throat. Then I felt it. A cold, dead hand closed around my ankle. I choked on a scream. My body jolted as something gripped me, nails pressing into my skin, curling against the fabric of my scrubs. The air turned electric, static snapping against my skin. I turned and ran. The door gave way beneath my shoulder, and I burst into the hallway, feet pounding against the tile. Behind me, I heard the kennel door smash open. The sound of paws, heavy and fast, hitting the ground. He was coming. I sprinted blindly through the dark, my shoulders slamming into the wall as I searched for the door handle. My fingers scraped smooth wood, no knob, no latch, just cold, endless surface. Paws pounded closer. No growling, no snarling, no warning, just movement. A freight train of silence, barreling toward me. I spun, pressing my back against the door. The darkness was absolute, thick and suffocating. The emergency lights had died, swallowing the building in shadow. But I could hear him, breathing. Slow, wet, thick with something I couldn't name. Then a whisper of movement, so close I felt the air shift. I bolted down the hall. No thought, no plan, just instinct. My body moved. I reached my locker, yanked it open, hands scrambling for my purse. The air behind me shifted. A weight, a presence. I felt it before I saw it. A void yawning open. My fingers closed around cold metal. The grip of my handgun. I turned, raised the barrel, and fired. The first shot lit up the hall like a camera flash. In that brief flicker, I saw him, that snarling grin. The second shot. The third. His body jerked, but he didn't fall. His lips were still curled back in that awful rictus. The sixth and final shot hit its mark. The left side of his skull caved inward, the muzzle of his face blown apart. His jaw sagged open, tongue limp. And even as he fell, his head twitched. A violent, unnatural snap of movement. A thick, wet pop echoed down the hall. He swayed. Then finally he dropped. I stood there, gun trembling in my hands, ears ringing. The darkness still pulsed around me, thick and heavy, pressing in from all sides. Then footsteps. Shouts. Voices. Someone grabbed my arm, yanking me back. The lights flickered, buzzed, then flared back to life. And for the first time, I saw what I had done. One shot had buried itself in the tile. The rest had hit him. Mutt lay on his side, his head a ruin of blood and bone. His chest rose once, twice. Then he went still. The bite muzzle was missing. He must have pulled it off somewhere during the chase. I didn't move. The hospital swarmed with people. Cops were called. Questions were asked. I barely registered any of it. They took me into the back office, my hands still shaking, my ears still filled with phantom echoes. I knew what I had to say. I knew how to frame it. Self-defense. I played the part well. The police let me go. Mutt was wrapped, bagged, stuffed in our freezer, waiting for cremation. I took time off work. Spent days in silence, trying to erase the memory of that voice. It didn't work. The morning I was supposed to return for my shift, I got a phone call. Blocked number. I answered. Slow, shaky breathing filled the line. Then, a laugh. Low, drawling, thick with something I couldn't name. A mouthful of tobacco chew. Or blood. You shouldn't have killed it, little lady. Keaton. His voice slithered through the speaker, curling like a snake around my spine. His laughter built, rising, filling the silence. You've just gone and made things so much worse. And as the laughing turned into hollering, the line clicked dead. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, staring at nothing. His words sank into my bones. Gone and made things so much worse. My first thought was confusion. How did he get my number? My second thought was frantic. Those words struck a chord deep inside my marrow. He said I'd made things worse. And for some reason, deep down in my soul, I believed him. Have you ever heard something you weren't supposed to? I'm not talking about an overheard whisper in a darkened hallway, or a hushed conversation you accidentally eavesdropped on. No, this was different. This was something impossible, something that shouldn't exist yet. Something from the future. I did. And now, I don't think I have much time left. It started 2 nights ago. I was up late, too late, mindlessly flipping through stations on my old radio. The kind with a stiff tuning dial and a scratched-up casing. The kind you don't really see anymore. I'd found it at a garage sale months back, drawn to its nostalgic charm, and ever since, it had become my companion during long, restless nights. I'm one of those people who need background noise while working, static-filled music, late-night talk shows, even those strange, distant signals that flicker in and out of dead frequencies. But that night, something different came through. At first, it was barely a whisper beneath the crackle of empty airwaves, a thin, ghostly hum fighting to be heard. I almost ignored it, almost turned the dial again. But then, a voice came. This is an emergency alert for all residents. This is not a test. I froze. The voice wasn't like the usual robotic warnings I'd heard before. It was off, slower, almost hesitant, like it was being forced out against some invisible resistance. A deep, mechanical distortion coated every word, stretching them out unnaturally. Please listen carefully. This broadcast is coming from the future. A nervous chuckle slipped from my lips. A joke. Had to be. Some underground station, having fun with late-night listeners. Maybe a creepypasta-inspired prank, trying to get under people's skin. But then, the voice came again. If you are hearing this, you have less than 24 hours. They are already here. They are watching. A shiver ran down my spine. And then a sudden burst of static, deafening, swallowing everything, the radio hissing like a living thing before cutting off entirely. I just sat there, staring at the radio, my fingers clenched tight around the armrest of my chair, the tremble in my hands betraying the fear I didn't want to acknowledge. It had to be fake. Some weird experimental transmission. A trick, a hoax, something, anything. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself, the unease crawled beneath my skin, settling deep into my bones. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. 12:03 a.m. A perfectly ordinary moment in a perfectly ordinary night. And yet, nothing felt ordinary anymore. With a shaky breath, I switched the radio off, buried myself under my blankets, and squeezed my eyes shut. I forced my mind to push it away, to label it as nothing more than late-night paranoia. I was wrong. I didn't want to hear anything else. I turned everything off and headed to my room. I lay in bed. My eyelids were heavy, my body sinking into the mattress, exhaustion pulling at me like unseen hands. The strange radio broadcast from earlier still lingered in my mind, but I had almost convinced myself it was nothing, just a hoax, a trick of my overtired brain. I was just about to sleep. And then, at exactly 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A sharp, urgent vibration against my nightstand. My stomach twisted as I reached for it, dread pooling in my chest like ice-cold water. An emergency alert. But something was wrong. There was no text, no explanation, just a pulsing, red notification swallowing the screen, beating like a heart. And then, I saw the radio, sitting on the table near my bed. I didn't put it there. I knew I hadn't put it there. But it was there. And before I could even process what I was looking at, before I could breathe or think or react, it turned on. By itself. The dial didn't move. No one touched it. But the second the static cleared, the voice came through again. Clearer this time. Stronger. You ignored the first warning. A cold sensation slid down my spine, like icy fingers pressing into my skin. Do not acknowledge them. Do not answer if they knock. Do not let them in. A loud, ear-piercing screech of static ripped through the air, rattling the speakers, then silence. The room felt unbearably still. And then, knock, knock, knock. A sharp, deliberate sound. I nearly dropped my phone. The knocking had come from my front door. I live alone. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one should be here. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Knock, knock, knock. Again. It was slow, even. The kind of knocking that didn't ask for permission, but announced its presence. I forced my legs to move, each step feeling heavier than the last. My breath felt too loud in the suffocating quiet. I reached the door and pressed my eye against the peephole. Nothing. No one was there. But the knocking continued. I backed away, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. My phone buzzed again. A new message. Do not look outside. My stomach twisted. A sick feeling spread through me like something was crawling beneath my skin. I couldn't resist. I moved toward the window, inching forward like something unseen was pushing against my chest. Slowly, carefully, I pulled the blinds back just enough to peek through. And I saw a man standing. Or at least, I think it was a man. He stood on the sidewalk, directly facing my house. Perfectly still. Too still. His posture was unnatural, rigid like a mannequin. His face was turned toward me, but he wasn't looking at me. His head was tilted at an impossible angle, as if something inside his neck had snapped. He wasn't moving, but he was there, watching. My phone buzzed again. They know you see them. A breath caught in my throat. My hands went numb. I stumbled back from the window, yanking the blinds shut so hard they rattled. And then, the knocking stopped. But the silence that followed, it was worse. Much, much worse. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I sat in my room, back pressed against the cold wall, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles ached. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath shallow and uneven. I waited. I waited for another message, another warning, another sound that would prove I wasn't losing my mind. But nothing came. Hours crawled by, stretching endlessly as the darkness outside deepened. The house was suffocatingly silent, every shadow stretching too far, every sound making me flinch. When the sun finally rose, I let out a shaky breath. The golden light seeped through my window, washing over the room like a safety net, chasing away the night's horrors. And suddenly it all felt stupid. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe some underground radio stunt designed to freak people out. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me, weaving fear into something bigger than it was. I told myself I was fine. I told myself it was over. But then, at exactly midnight, the radio switched on. By itself. The static was deafening, crackling like fire, growing louder and louder until it spoke. This is your final warning. My entire body locked up. The voice was different now. Heavier. Darker. They will come inside tonight. You must not run. You must not scream. You must not speak. It said. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, as if something invisible was pressing down on it. My fingers curled around my bed sheets, my body frozen in place. Then, bzzz, my phone vibrated. I swallowed, hesitating, then slowly lowered my gaze. A message. Do not let them take you. My stomach dropped. The screen flickered. Then it went completely black. At that exact moment, the lights in my house flickered. Once. Twice. Then, click. The front door unlocked by itself. A cold sweat broke out along my spine. My mouth went dry. I did not unlock that door, but it had opened. I grabbed the baseball bat leaning against my closet, clutching it so tightly my fingers ached. I didn't know if it would do anything, but I needed something. Anything. I backed into the farthest corner of my room, my entire body tensed, ears straining for any sound. Then I heard them. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. They weren't heavy, but they weren't light either. They sounded wrong, like something that wasn't entirely sure how to move properly. I clenched my jaw, biting down on the urge to scream. Then, I heard breathing. Too slow, too deep, like someone trying to imitate what a human should sound like. Creak. Then a slow, agonizing creak echoed through the hallway. The floorboards groaned beneath them as they moved through the house. They were looking for me. My phone buzzed again. One last message. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see what it said. But I did. Do not blink. It said. I stiffened. Then, a shadow, right outside my bedroom door. I could see it, a sliver of darkness beneath the gap. It didn't move. It didn't shift. It just stood there, waiting. I could hear my own heartbeat hammering in my skull, blood rushing through my ears so loudly it felt like a roar. And then, it moved. Towards me. Every cell in my body screamed for me to run, but I couldn't. My muscles refused to obey. And the warning, I couldn't ignore it. Do not blink. So I didn't. My eyes locked on the shadow, burning from the strain. Tears welled up, spilling down my cheeks, but I did not blink. I couldn't. And then, the lights flickered. The radio let out a final burst of static. And just like that, they were gone. The shadow disappeared. The air went still. The house was empty. I don't know what would have happened if I had blinked. But I never want to find out. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know what they were. But I know one thing. I am still here. But something has changed. The radio? It doesn't work anymore. Every station is just dead air. My phone? It doesn't receive emergency alerts anymore. But last night, I looked outside. He was there, standing across the street. The same stiff posture, the same tilted head, waiting, watching. I don't think this is over, and I don't think I have much time left. So here's the deal. This guy on Discord keeps trying to message people. But each time someone accepts his friend request, the moment he starts a conversation, the person he's messaging gets a knock on the door and types BRB, or back in a sec, or sometimes just hang on. Only they never come back. He doesn't know what happens to them. Never gets enough details to figure out real names, where they live, or who's knocking. Just that someone's at their door. Knock knock. Then boom. Gone. Ghosted. I'm about to find out why. See, I'm the next guy to chat with him. He claims he wants to hire me to solve the mystery, and he's promised me $50 if I can tell him who's at the door. Him. It's always within the first 5 minutes. Me. So someone's gonna knock and make me disappear. Him. I mean, yeah, that's what keeps happening, lol. Me. How many people so far? Him. 8. Me. You sure you're not just accidentally disconnecting? Him. I'm sure. You definitely disappear. Me. But if I don't, you'll Venmo me $50. Him. Yeah, just tell me why everybody else vanishes. I check my watch. Only a sucker would believe him. But just call me Jack Sucker Wild. $50 is just big enough and 5 minutes just short enough that even though I know I'm being strung along, I linger like a jackal eyeing a plump bird overhead, waiting in the impossible hope it'll fall from the sky. I ask him if he can tell me anything about the 8 others who disappeared. He claims he knows nothing about them except their usernames, which he can't remember accurately. It's only been 2 minutes. Me. Hey, reminds me of a joke. Knock knock. Him. Who's there? Me. Jack Juicy. Him. Jack Juicy who? Me. Course I don't see who, nobody's knocked yet. Him. Ugh lol. Me. Knock knock. Him. Who's there? Me. Jack Waddleweed. Him. Do you only know jokes with your name in them? Jack Waddleweed who? Me. I told ya we gotta wait till they knock. Him. Bro. Stop man face palming. I got 1,000,000 of these. My favorite is actually a Britney one. Like most of my material, it's not a Jack original. Wanna guess where I read it? I'm about to tell it anyway when my phone pings, and nope, nothing related to knocking. It's just my girl, asking how studying is going. I should probably get off Discord before she actually comes down here to my basement office to check on me. And I hover the mouse over the chat tab to close it, keeping one eye on the clock. Right as I'm about to click, there's a knocking at my door. The number 1 rule of the paranormal is, it's not real. 99.9% of the time, anyone telling you a ghost story is selling you a fiction. They might believe in that fiction themselves. In fact, that's why these things travel so well. Nothing sells a lie like a true believer. But at the end of the day, that chain email's not gonna curse you, that creepy doll's not gonna come to life. There'll never be a knocking at your door that will result in your sudden disappearance off the face of the earth. And Jack, you're never gonna get that 50, so close the chat already. Without closing the chat, I get up and go up the stairs to the door, so I can let my fiancée into my basement office. My girl, Emma, is a straight-A overachiever going for her master's in public policy. She promised we'll announce our engagement once I earn my GED, which is why I'm supposed to be studying. Me? I dropped out of high school and quickly found my true calling, raising money for charity. Specifically, charity for yours truly. Yep, I'm a scam artist. Spent the better part of a decade involved in everything from catfishing to setting up GoFundMes that just fund me. Only degree I ever got was in BS. My girl wants me to go to business school and get an actual degree. I reformed before I met her, straightened out a couple summers ago after karma slammed me into a coma. Nothing like near death to make a man reevaluate his choices. So the real reason I stayed in the chat, it's not for that 50. I stayed on the teensy chance people really are disappearing. Because this is my new charity work. This is how I make up for my misdeeds. I save people as a paranormal investigator, which, as I've mentioned, 99% of the time is just about uncovering scams. LOL, no way this dude's legit. Everyone he chats with disappears in 5 minutes? 8 people and no one noticed the connection? Come on. But also, what kind of sucker would I be to make it 9? Knock. 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 Babe. I wrap my knuckles on the door and grip the knob. Wanna hear a joke? I wait. And wait. Pretending not to notice the goosebumps on my arms. Pretending not to feel the cold knot of dread forming in my gut when she doesn't answer. Then I let the knob slide back into its closed position, drop down and peek under the bottom of the door. No feet. Not even a shadow. No one is there. I trot back downstairs and type. Me knock knock. Him, who's there? Me, you tell me, bud. There's knocking on my door. Wanna explain what's really out there and why you keep luring people to it. Most entities I've encountered follow specific rules. Since they don't belong in this world, they often require an invitation or a summons. You're probably already familiar with this concept through folklore, stuff like vampires needing to be invited inside, or the devil making a deal to swindle someone out of their soul. The recurring theme is that whatever terrible fate befalls the victim is in some way incurred by spoken or unspoken agreement, like paranormal terms and conditions. I accepted his friend request. Next came the knocking. If I open the door, next comes my disappearance. Each step an invitation to the next. But what did I really invite? And what's this guy's connection to it? Him. Oh shit, there's knocking FR? Rip, I guess, LOL. Him, ghost. Me. I peeked under the door and no one's there. Him, wait, shit, really? OMG, holy shit, you are the first person who hasn't ghosted me. Are you shitting me or is this for real? Me, who are you? What's your real name? Him, I'm not comfortable giving my name out online. Me, why the fuck are you luring people? Him, I'm fucking not, man. I'm just Tim. That's my real name, Tim. I'm just a dude. I have no idea why people get knocks on their doors after I friend them. Me, meet me in video chat. Him, yeah, sure, okay. Yes. Christ, yes. I want to know as bad as you. But the video chat is all staticky. It is very difficult to make out Tim. His room is dark, as if all the lights are off, or else the video is just very low quality and the connection terrible. I cannot hear him speak. The knocking continues on the door to my basement office. I need names. Nothing but static. I can't hear you. Look, just send screenshots of your previous chats. And the 50. TIM. Why do you need screenshots? Isn't that like a violation of privacy? Do you want to know what's knocking or not? I reply aloud. Tim can obviously hear me and probably see me too, because he hems and haws and types out his responses to me on the keyboard. It's not until I threaten to log off that he finally relents. $50 from some guy named Tim shows up in my account, followed by a series of screenshots. All his conversations follow the exact same pattern as mine. A short exchange followed by a BRB or hang on. The only variation is in how he opens the conversation, initially beginning with, I'm looking to make friends, but as he gets ghosted changing it up to, I'm trying to figure out why everyone disappears. At one point he says, does everyone just hate me? Seems like just a regular lonely dude baffled by the world tuning him out. He's pitiful enough in these conversations I might assume it's his extreme social ineptitude putting people off. Except for the knocking. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking won't quit. When I get up and walk over to the egress window to crack it open, the knocking at the top of the stairs moves to the nearby storage room door. And when I go to take a leak, the knocking comes from the bathroom door, barring me from going in to use the toilet. Good thing I have that potted plant down here that needs watering. Oof, this is gonna get real inconvenient real fast. Jack, you're in trouble now. Sorry for the pun. I'd pee myself out, but as you know I can't. And unless I can figure out who's behind this knocking, I'm next in line to disappear. So much for studying. My first and best play here is to learn what I can from the previous victims, and after rereading their chats, I start digging for deeper data. The first guy I identify is a 67-year-old boomer who uses the Discord handle Quentin S, real name Quentin S, and his password is almost certainly password or 03XXXX, which is his birth date that he also publicly shares, along with his address on white pages. He lives about an hour away from me. His last post was 1 week ago, and friends of his are posting birthday wishes on his FB and asking about him, though there's nothing in local news about him being officially missing as of yet. The next user I identify is T Foxfire, who uses the same username for her blog, which links to her Instagram, where she shares video of herself, real name Lucia T, walking her cat, Boo. From the landmarks in her videos, I find her address, and since she's in the next suburb, over only 12 minutes away, I call a Lyft. Lucia's conversation with Tim was 2 days ago, and there's no missing persons report for her either. While waiting for the Lyft, I search the other users, trying to find any I can identify quickly. The next to come up is Discord user Rossman, who I find via the same profile picture on Instagram as R. Osman. She turns up in local news. Search for missing woman continues. These are all fake names, by the way, out of respect for the victim's privacy, but you get the gist of my search results. I'm still trying to ID the other victims when my Lyft arrives. Since doors aren't an option, I go out through the egress window. As I approach the Lyft, is that rapping I hear from inside, muffled by the ambient noise of the wind. Just to be safe, I ask my driver to lower the rear passenger window so I can climb gracelessly in, my upper body collapsing into the seat and my legs kicking out like I'm stuck in a shitty sitcom. Only thing missing is a laugh track. The driver stares like I've lost my mind. Smile, Jack. Thumbs up. This is gonna be a great day. Lucia T lives in the lower level of a red brick duplex in an artsy neighborhood. Someone has written a poem in marker on an upper window of the duplex, and Boo the cat peers out at me from the curtains of a lower window. I ascend the front steps, only to be immediately exasperated because, like most duplexes, Lucia's has doors. As soon as I approach, the knocking starts up. Knock, knock, knock. I back off and head to the windows, rapping my knuckles on the frames and looking for any that might be open. I'm standing there with my hands cupped to the glass, peeking in like the dictionary definition of shady, when the front door opens and an old lady confronts me. It's Lucia's landlady and upstairs neighbor, Doreen, who according to Lucia's Instagram adores her cat Boo. I tell Doreen I was passing by and the cat was howling, and I looked in and saw what looked like someone passed out inside. It's a lie I blurt right in the moment, but I have what my girl calls puppy eyes, sweet and earnest, and I turn on full labradoodle mode. My concern is contagious enough that Doreen wants to call the police, but I tell her if the passed out person needs CPR, it might be too late if we wait. She can call while we quickly check. Doreen unlocks the door, seeming not to notice the knock knock knocking. Nothing happens to her when she opens it. She's not the invitee after all. Luce, she calls. Hello. I call as I follow her in. Nothing but a cozy living room and a wide-eyed cat. While the landlady goes to check the bedroom, I unlatch a window and open it just a crack. We do not find Lucia. I apologize profusely to Doreen and tell her I must have been imagining that I saw someone fall. I definitely heard a thud, but it must have been the cat. We go back outside, me babbling about how I'm so attuned to cats. I'm not. Dogs are objectively better. Have you ever seen a guide cat for the blind? Of course not. Even cat fanatics know that cats are assholes who'd let the blind walk right into walls. We chat a little longer, and I say goodbye and head on my way. Right back around to that window, slipping inside. And now I snoop. What happened to Lucia? There was no buildup of mail outside. No evidence she is in fact missing. But the cat's food and water bowls are empty, and the cat is hounding me, weaving at my feet. When I told the landlady the cat was signaling me for help, I was lying, but now this distressed little animal genuinely seems to be trying to tell me something important. Hey buddy, where's Lucia? I ask. A dog would recognize the name and take off in search of its owner. The cat, of course, does no such thing, only meowing louder and in my face, clawing at my jeans. Useless. Knock, 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 knock. I press my hand to the door, and all the hairs on my arms stand on end. When I take my hand away, the hairs settle. I'm not a medium, not exactly, but ever since my very first paranormal encounter, I've been attuned to the uncanny. My first encounter left me marked. That happens when you catch the attention of the wrong entity. In my case, the marking is an ink tattoo of a lady in red on my left arm. She's a demon who's sworn to catch me and punish me for all my life's misdeeds, and sooner or later, she's inevitably how I'll die. Anyway, point is, I'm attuned to the paranormal, but I wasn't born with any real psychic gift, if you even believe in that stuff. so I have no way of knowing what's out there knocking on that door. I'm about 30 seconds away from opening it out of sheer curiosity, but survival instinct, and the fact the cat vanishes the moment I grip the knob, keep me from doing so. Instead, I sink down against the wall, tugging out my phone. Maybe the other victims can shed some light. And presto, when I search for Quentin S., I find an update in local news. Oakside man's body found in home, cause of death unknown. Authorities are investigating the death of 67-year-old Quentin S., whose body was found in the crawl space beneath the stairs of his home. So he didn't disappear? But then where is Lucia? According to the police report, a neighbor decided to check on Quentin after noticing that his front door was ajar. It was not clear how long Quentin had been dead. The neighbor told police that Quentin's mouth was open in a scream. In a subsequent interview, the neighbor, who asked to remain anonymous saying he feared for his safety, said, "I can't stop thinking about it. The way his eyes were bulged out, I'll never forget it. It looked like something chased him under the stairs and literally scared him to death." Huh, good thing I didn't open it, I think, eyeing the front door of Lucia's unit. Then chasing right on the heels of that thought, but what did he see that scared him to death? One of my best, or worst, qualities as an investigator is an insatiable curiosity like an itch, especially if warnings are blaring. Been like that since I was a kid. What's this red button do? Set off an alarm, and I was grounded. What's in these confidential files on my dad's computer? Proof he's cheating. Again, grounded. What happens if I sit in that cursed chair that kills everyone that sits in it? Actually haven't done that one yet because Emma wouldn't let me. The chair's still on my bucket list. Or as she calls it, my obscenely stupid list. I should probably check in with my girl before I give in to the urge to do something obscenely stupid. But first, what happened to Lucia? Did she flee? I glance around the living room, narrow my eyes on a couple of envelopes on the floor, right at my fingertips. Letters. Like she was picking through the mail while opening the door. Drop the mail in shock. Fear? Dropped mail, then where did she go? The front door is where it would have been, so if she fled, she'd run to the bedroom or bathroom. I checked the bathroom, but it is tiny, and there is no one behind the shower curtain. Bedroom then, at the end of the hall, its door open. The landlady already checked in here. Closet? But the closet has a sliding door already ajar, and I can see the cat peeking out. I push it further open and peer inside. Nothing but clothes and shoes. The cat is crying. The cat is clawing at my pant leg and looking at something, I realize. The cat is looking at something under the bed. And I get that feeling, that sinking in my gut. My limbs heavy, my heartbeat suddenly slamming my ears. The cat looks back at me and meows, and I don't hear him over the rush of my own blood. The apartment is empty except for me and this loudly screaming cat. I lift up the edge of the bedsheet and drop down to my knees and peer under the bed. Here is Lucia, mouth wide open in a shriek and body stiffened in a fetal posture of terror, hiding from whatever entered when she opened that door. Quentin's neighbor didn't do the description justice. I'm huddled on the floor, holding the cat, and I can't breathe. My pulse is slamming out a rhythm with that knock knock knocking, and I can't tell anymore whether the pounding is from the door or my heart. It's so fucking loud and I can't breathe and fuck. Why did I look at her face? Suddenly I feel like such an idiot, such a phenomenally hopeless idiot, for all those knock-knock jokes. Now I listen to that knocking, and all I can see is Lucia's eyes, the bloodshot whites, and the way her jaw is all but unhinged in a shriek you can practically hear. Hell, I think I can hear it, somewhere beneath the knocking. Lord knows I've had my share of scares. I thought I knew terror. But whatever left Lucia like this, I can't meet it. I'm not going to end with my face stretched like hers in that god-awful sanity-shattering scream. No. I can't go like that. Go away. I holler, not even caring if the landlady hears me now. Why didn't I just do what I was supposed to and study? I should have learned by now to follow my girl's advice, which is to make up for my misdeeds in some ordinary way. Donate to good causes, volunteer, become a public servant, or work for an actual charity or a cat rescue or literally anything, as long as I'm not poking around the paranormal. This morning the plan was so simple, all I had to do was pass the practice test for my GED and not friend some haunted dude on Discord. Emma's gonna be so pissed at me, and that's before she finds out what I did to her potted plant. Ugh. I guess just call me Brittany now. Knock knock. Who's there? Brittany. Brittany who? I fucked up, babe. Knock knock. Who's there? Brittany. Brittany who? Oops, I did it again. Hi, the previous post was made by my brother, who died about 3 days ago. Here it is if you want some context, his call for help. The police are still trying to figure out if that's really what happened because it makes no sense. Dead people don't use cell phones. The main theory is that the people responsible for his death posted the text as a form of provocation or humiliation, since we didn't find him in time. His phone hasn't been found yet, but from what I've been told, it hasn't been turned off, so maybe the bastards still have it, and we can track them down. I'm not as good with words as my brother is, or was. I don't know, I'm still not used to this, and I don't think I ever will be. But I'll try to explain what happened from my point of view, and also inform some of you about what's going on, within what the police have allowed me to share. And also, to warn you about the dangers of sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I'm his older sister. We were always close when we were younger. I protected him from everything, maybe too much, I think. But one day the fight started, the disagreements, the resentment. The moment everything went to hell was the day I accidentally outed him. Everything was fine that week. We hadn't even fought, and the house was more or less peaceful. Then my parents asked me about my dance group, and the day before, I had recorded a rehearsal. I was always on their side about it, because they thought it was just an excuse to hang out with friends and do nothing. So I ran and connected my phone to the TV to show them the video, proving that I actually practiced and worked hard. But I couldn't find it on my phone, so I remembered, oh, I sent it to the brat right after class because we were going out for ice cream later, and he was curious about how it was going. The moment that thought clicked in my head, without even thinking, I opened our chat and went looking for the video. My parents were already pressuring me to show it to them, and by then, the damage was done. That same day, he canceled our ice cream plans. I even cursed him out for it, because his little boyfriend had invited him to the movies, and he abandoned me. When my parents caught a glimpse of the messages, my dad immediately stood up, leaning closer to the TV, and my mom followed him. When I tried to disconnect before they could read anything, I accidentally scrolled up, and a picture of them kissing at the movie theater entrance popped up. I didn't know what to do. I quickly disconnected my phone and wanted to run, but they grabbed me and started interrogating me like I was some fucking Interpol fugitive. They were screaming, and my mom was crying while on the phone with the school principal. The school was very religious, and she was yelling, asking how they let this happen. When he came home with my parents, covered in bruises from being slapped, I knew I had lost him. My little boy, who I loved so much. From that day on, he never spoke to me again. When I moved out, living alone for the first time in a tiny apartment that a rookie journalist's salary could afford, we even exchanged a few messages. I think the distance helped him process his resentment toward me. But then our mom found out she had cancer, which took her from this earth 3 months later. Even in her final moments, stuck in her stupid beliefs, she told him that if he didn't repent, he'd never go to heaven and that she'd die in grief. The day she died, saying she'd die with that bitterness, he blocked me, and we never spoke again. I'm writing this through tears because even in the moment when he was most scared, disoriented, and from what the investigators said, in some kind of psychotic episode, he still didn't trust me. And that's eating me inside out as much as not being able to apologize to him, not being able to try to reconnect. I should have done it sooner. Maybe then he'd still be here, alive, with me. So I'm here to warn you all, never do what he did. It doesn't matter if it's a fancy neighborhood, if the people seem fancy, if everything looks dazzling. Never ignore your fucking intuition. What I know so far about what happened to him is what I'll share in the next lines. The house he said he entered really exists, and it was pretty easy to track down based on the precise descriptions he gave. But it's in a deplorable state, nothing like what he described. The house was built in 1903, and the owners were a family who owned a luxury furniture brand. They came here because of the abundance of quality wood and various crystals and minerals. But the house was abandoned in the 80s for a reason I haven't had the patience to research yet. The way he described it, the house seemed habitable, just a little run down. But what the experts found was that side entrance with only 3 of the 7 plates he mentioned, the ceiling of the small hall broken and covered in a thin layer of ivy, and that damn tall gate he talked about was completely rusted and corroded. They had to saw through the locks, and the interior of what was left of the manor was in pretty much the same condition. Comparing his descriptions with newspaper articles from my college and the ones stored in the public library downtown, it seemed like he was seeing the house as it was in the 70s, like, what the hell was going on with him? I also found out, while researching the house, that it's protected by the Historical Preservation Council, which is why I found so much about it. What I thought is that he might have read about the house, and when his psychotic episode started, his mind filled in all the flaws of the house, just like those damn vines covering that shitty wall. But it didn't make sense for him to just snap out of nowhere. That's when I remembered what the police told me yesterday afternoon, saying that under no circumstances should I go near the house or try to look for the criminals or clues because there were a lot of poisonous and potentially toxic plants on the property. And that's when it clicked in my mind that when the dude dripped on him and he spent minutes running his hand through the foliage on the wall, something probably contaminated him. That would explain a lot of what I found in his sketchbook and all the mental confusion and that damn hypnosis and illusions about the house that he described in the post. And one more thing that supports my crazy conspiracy theory is that I found a photo of the plates in a 1943 scientific newspaper clipping that explains some of the mystical meanings of each plate, along with a kind of nerd quiz about plants, asking which species were engraved on the plates. For of the ones I found online were basically very toxic fungi, and one was a plant known as Angel's Trumpet, and that shit will take you anywhere but heaven. It's very likely that the damn owners of the house planted that crap there, and due to the lack of care, it contaminated the outer wall and consequently my brother. I hate those rich bastards who think they're so different and eccentric. I also read in some sites that just water passing through these plants becomes unfit for consumption and gets infected with poisonous spores and pollen. My brother said everything was extremely damp and that he could smell the greenery. He could have absorbed it through his skin or his nose. By the time he got to the entrance of the house, the toxins were probably already taking effect because, as I said, what he described doesn't match the reality the investigators found. I keep wondering if that boy he saw was just another hallucination or if he was real and one of the people responsible for his death. Because there's no way my brother could have gotten in there without help. Or maybe it was a homeless person who saw him feeling sick and ran away to avoid trouble, leaving him there alone to die. There are so many unanswered questions, and the damn investigators won't tell me anything. I know they know something because during the breaks in the interrogations, when they were outside the room, I saw them whispering, confused, some getting angry when others suggested ideas, but always trying to downplay their reactions and glancing at me through the glass. They're hiding something. I know it. I was only able to identify my brother in the morgue by his face, which was already bluish and covered in yellow lichen growing over the bruises on his little face. He looked so calm but also scared. I remembered when he was about 9 years old, and I could tell he was having a nightmare because his mouth would tense up, and his eyebrows would do that thing they did when he was scared. His face was frozen like that, alone. I hate myself for not being there with him. The rest of his body was covered, and when I went to touch him, even over the bag, they stopped me because it was unsanitary. They almost kicked me out of there, and I didn't even get a proper chance to say goodbye. I'm waiting for them to release my little brother from that metal box, so I can give him a proper ceremony and let him rest. But until that happens, I'm not going anywhere until I understand what happened to him. Like, they said they found my brother in a pit inside a cave after a large abandoned sewer tunnel that was sealed off. They were able to access it through a hole created by water erosion from another hole in the ceiling, which carried the water down like a waterfall to a staircase that collapsed into the basement of the house, and then into that sewer beneath the foundation. I think my brother tried to follow the boy, and because of the hallucinations, didn't see that the staircase was worn out and fell in. From what I've described here, it sounds like an accident, right? There are some gapes in the storyline, like how my brother got in, if that person he saw was really there, but an accident, right? No, because the investigators, in their first contact with me and my dad, clearly said murder. After that, they never used that word again, saying he died for inconclusive reasons that are under forensic investigation. I've heard that phrase so many times that I almost convinced myself, but I'll never forget the pain I felt when the word murder echoed inside me, thrashing around like a ball of glass shards, tearing me apart from the inside. I won't forget. Someone hurt the person I love most in this world, and they're out there free. I won't let them hide in the darkness. I won't stop until I get answers. One of my clues, if I can even call them that, is that he filled his sketchbook with countless drawings, notes, and random information. I think he kept recording everything after both his phone and iPad died, or maybe even before that. A lot of it doesn't make any sense for me now, or is really hard to understand, but it clearly tells some kind of story that I'm trying to piece together. Something that those damn investigators didn't even bother with, saying he was in extreme mental crises. Nothing in there will be useful for the investigation. It'll only lead us down the wrong paths. Take this with you to keep a piece of him on your side. The motherfucker threw it at me with a smug little smile after I tried to get information about my brother's death for almost 3 fucking stupid hours. I heard that from the head of the forensics division himself. I know he might have been disoriented, but dismissing evidence like that? It tells me they just want to wrap this up quickly and avoid a scandal in a high-class neighborhood. The notebook is full of drawings of tunnels, maps, architectural plans, and some random phrases that are hard to read. It seemed like, even in his confusion, he was trying to orient himself to escape. However, there are passages that are much more irrational. Lots of scribbles, stained patterns that I don't understand the shape of, countless eyes, distorted bodies and faces, and phrases that make no sense, with words frantically repeated. One of the faces looked like mine, but as if I were rotten and filled with hatred. I read that when you're in these kinds of crises, your brain tries to wake you up through your fears. And maybe that's why he drew me. I'm trying to fool myself into thinking he wanted to remember me, the sister who loves him so much, but it's not working. I'm fucked up and haven't slept since I received death in my house. After those faces, it seems like he lost his pencil or simply lost the ability to use it. He didn't write anything else and just started scribbling with his hands, using dirt or what looks like some kind of crushed plant that has a very intense yellow tone, almost neon, and something brownish red that I think is dirt or blood. The last pages are full of patterns and some random scratches with his fingerprints marked, which look very agitated. The marks are shaky, as if he were desperate for something. I need to understand what he's trying to tell me. It's my duty as his sister. I have to understand him at least once. I need to know what happened and give him justice and peace. What I'm doing now while writing this is trying to understand all the symbols and patterns I found in the notebook. I've been researching for hours and found some similarities. I won't post pictures of the pages themselves, but I'll try to recreate some of the more obvious drawings and then put the link here in the next update on this same post, just in case someone with a good heart wants to help me out. Thanks to everyone who read this far and never, under any circumstances, enter a stranger's house.